Daniel Morrison sits across from a federal investigator, sliding a folder across the desk. Inside, emails, recordings, witness statements. Evidence of systematic discrimination at Apex Financial. The investigator's eyes widen as he reads. "How long has this been happening?" he asks. Daniel's voice is steady. "Years. But they made a mistake 6 months ago. They fired me right after I told them my wife was having complications with our pregnancy. They thought I'd just disappear. They were wrong." The investigator looks up. "We need to talk to your former manager immediately." 9 months earlier, Daniel Morrison is 31 years old and living what most people would call a good life. He works as a senior financial analyst at Apex Financial in Chicago, a mid-sized investment firm with 200 employees. He's been there for 4 years. Solid performer. Reliable. The kind of employee who doesn't make waves but consistently delivers. Daniel lives in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park with his husband, Marcus. They've been together for 7 years, married for 3. Marcus teaches middle school math and coaches the debate team. They're that couple everyone describes as stable and grounded. Last year, they made a decision that changed everything. They wanted to start a family. After months of research, lawyer consultations, and emotional preparation, they connected with a surrogate. By January, their surrogate, a kind woman named Jennifer from Indiana, was 12 weeks pregnant with their son. Daniel and Marcus are ecstatic. They've already painted the spare bedroom. They've read 7 parenting books. They've started a college fund. Daniel's father, a retired firefighter from Boston, calls every week asking for updates. Marcus's brother sends baby clothes monthly. At work, Daniel is cautious about sharing the news. Apex Financial has a reputation. Conservative. Old school. The kind of place where the executive team is all men over 50, where culture fit is code for something less inclusive. But Daniel figures he has to tell them eventually. He needs to arrange paternity leave. So in February, during his quarterly review with his manager, he mentions it casually. "By the way, Trevor, I wanted to give you a heads up. My husband and I are expecting a baby in July. I'll need to take paternity leave around then." Trevor Ashford is 47, a managing director who's been with Apex for 15 years. He's the kind of manager who uses sports metaphors constantly and always talks about grinding and crushing it. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Oh, congratulations. That's quite an undertaking." "We're excited," Daniel says. "I'm sure. We'll figure out the logistics when it gets closer." Trevor makes a note. "How much time were you thinking?" "The company policy says 6 weeks of paid leave." "Right. Of course. That's the policy." Something in Trevor's tone feels off, but Daniel can't identify it. The meeting ends. Daniel goes back to his desk feeling uneasy but telling himself he's imagining things. He's not. Over the next 3 months, Daniel notices changes. Subtle at first, then undeniable. He's excluded from meetings he'd normally attend. Projects he's been leading get reassigned without explanation. His input in team discussions gets dismissed or ignored. When he asks Trevor about it, the answer is always vague. Just shifting resources around. Nothing personal. But it feels personal. His colleague, Jason, pulls him aside one day. "Hey, I don't know if I should say this, but Trevor's been asking us to document any mistakes you make. Any missed deadlines, errors in reports, anything. He's building a file." Daniel's stomach drops. Why would he do that? Jason looks uncomfortable. "Look, I heard him talking to Brian from HR. He said something about managing out underperformers before they become a problem. I'm pretty sure it's because of the baby thing." "That's illegal." That's pregnancy discrimination. I know, man. But they're being careful. They're framing it as performance issues. Daniel starts documenting everything. He saves emails. He records his metrics. His performance reviews have always been solid, meets expectations, or exceeds expectations for the past 4 years. Nothing has changed except the news about his impending fatherhood. Then, in May, Jennifer has complications. She's put on bed rest. The doctors are concerned about preterm labor. Daniel needs to travel to Indiana several times for appointments, to coordinate care, to be there for Jennifer who's scared and alone. He uses PTO. He works remotely when possible. He communicates with Trevor every step of the way. But Trevor's patience, already thin, evaporates completely. This is becoming a pattern, Trevor says during a video call. You're distracted. Your commitment to the team is in question. I'm handling my responsibilities. All my projects are on track. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing someone whose priorities are shifting away from this company. Trevor, my surrogate is having medical complications. I need to be there for. That's exactly what I mean. You're already acting like you're not part of this team anymore. Daniel feels the trap closing. Are you saying I can't support my family? I'm saying that Apex needs people who are all in. And right now, you're not. 2 weeks later, on a Friday afternoon, Daniel is called into HR. Trevor is there. So is Brian Chen, the HR director, with a folder in front of him that Daniel recognizes immediately. The performance file. Daniel, we need to discuss some concerns about your performance, Brian begins. Daniel's hands clench under the table. What concerns specifically? Brian opens the folder. Multiple instances of missed deadlines, errors in financial models, and decreased productivity over the past 3 months. That's not accurate. I've met every deadline. My work has been reviewed and approved by. We have documentation, Trevor interrupts. Your performance has declined significantly. We've tried to address this informally, but there's been no improvement. Daniel knows what's coming. He can feel it like a wave about to crash. We're terminating your employment, effective immediately, Brian says. You'll receive 2 weeks severance and your benefits will continue through the end of the month. The room spins. This is discrimination. You're firing me because I'm about to have a baby. That's a serious accusation, Brian says, his voice cooling. Your termination is purely performance-based. We have extensive documentation supporting this decision. Documentation you fabricated after I told you about my family situation. Trevor leans forward. Daniel, I understand you're upset, but making unfounded accusations won't change anything. The decision is final. I want to see the documentation. Every piece of it. We'll email it to you along with your exit paperwork, Brian says. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Daniel sits there for a moment, processing. His son is due in 8 weeks. He just lost his health insurance. His income. His career. You're destroying my family, he says quietly. We're making a business decision, Trevor replies. Nothing personal. Security appears at the door. Daniel stands. His legs feel unsteady. He walks to his desk while colleagues pretend not to stare. He packs his things into a cardboard box. Photos of Marcus. The ultrasound image of their son. A coffee mug that says, "World's okayest dad," that Marcus got him as a joke. In 15 minutes, 4 years of work are reduced to a box of personal items. He walks out of Apex Financial for the last time. He sits in his car in the parking garage. He doesn't cry. Not yet. He's too angry. He calls Marcus. They fired me. Marcus's sharp intake of breath is audible.
What? Why? Because of the baby.
They won't say it, but that's why.
That's illegal. I know.
But they're claiming it's performance.
They built a whole case.
What are we going to do? Daniel looks at the building, at the life he just lost.
I'm going to fight them.
The first 2 weeks are brutal. Daniel applies to 40 jobs. He gets 3 interviews. When potential employers ask why he left Apex, he struggles with how to answer. I was terminated for performance issues, kills opportunities immediately. I was discriminated against, sounds like sour grapes. The stress affects everything. Marcus takes on tutoring gigs for extra money. Daniel's father sends checks they're too proud to cash but too desperate to refuse. Jennifer's medical bills keep coming. The baby is due in 6 weeks. Daniel lies awake at night doing math. Savings divided by monthly expenses equals 4 months before they're broke. But he's also doing something else. He's building a case. He requests his complete personnel file from Apex. They have to provide it legally. When it arrives, he reads every performance review, every email, every piece of feedback from his 4 years there. The pattern is stark. Until February, the month he announced the pregnancy, his reviews are consistently positive. After February, suddenly every document is negative. The timeline is damning. He reaches out to Jason, his former colleague. I need you to go on the record about what Trevor said.
About building a file against me.
Jason is terrified.
Daniel, I could lose my job.
They're going to do this to someone else.
You know they will.
I have a family to support.
I can't risk. So do I. And they destroyed mine.
Jason is silent for a long moment.
Let me think about it.
Daniel also discovers something interesting. He's not the first person Apex has fired under suspicious circumstances. He finds 3 other former employees through LinkedIn who left abruptly. 2 were women who'd recently had babies. 1 was a man who'd taken medical leave for cancer treatment. He reaches out to all of them. 2 don't respond. But 1 does. Nathan Rodriguez, 38, was terminated from Apex 2 years ago. They did the same thing to me, Nathan says over coffee. I had stage 2 lymphoma. Needed treatment. Took FMLA leave. When I came back, they'd reassigned all my clients and documented performance issues I'd never heard about. Fired me 3 months later.
Did you sue?
Couldn't afford a lawyer.
And honestly,
I was too exhausted from treatment to fight.
I just wanted to move on.
I can't move on, Daniel says.
Not because of the money.
Because they need to face consequences. What are you going to do? Daniel tells him. Nathan listens. Then he says something unexpected. I'll testify. Whatever you need. I'm healthy now. I'm stable. And I'm tired of letting them get away with this. Daniel contacts the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. He files a formal complaint alleging discrimination based on family status and retaliation. The EEOC assigns an investigator, Michael Torres, a career civil rights attorney who's seen every corporate trick. Michael reviews Daniel's evidence. The timeline. The fabricated performance issues. The witness statements from Jason, who eventually agrees to provide a sworn affidavit, and Nathan. This is textbook discrimination, Michael says. They're not even being subtle about it.
Can you help me?
The EEOC will investigate. If we find merit, and we will, we can attempt mediation. If that fails, we can authorize you to sue or file a federal lawsuit ourselves. How long does this take? 6 months minimum. Often longer. Daniel's son is born in July. They name him Leo. He's healthy. Perfect. Daniel holds him in the hospital and feels overwhelming love mixed with overwhelming fear. How is he going to provide for this child? Marcus takes a second job. Daniel does freelance financial consulting. They survive. Barely. But Daniel doesn't stop building his case. He's meticulous. He gathers evidence. He finds more former employees with similar stories. The pattern is undeniable. Apex Financial systematically pushes out anyone who becomes inconvenient. 4 months after his termination, the EEOC concludes its investigation. Michael calls with the results. We're finding cause. Clear evidence of discrimination and retaliation. Apex is in violation of federal law. The EEOC offers Apex a choice: settle in mediation or face a federal lawsuit with significant penalties. Apex's lawyers recommend settlement. Fighting the EEOC is expensive and brings public scrutiny. Better to settle quietly and move on. The mediation takes place in a downtown Chicago conference room. Daniel sits on one side with Michael Torres. Across from him, Trevor, Brian from HR, Apex's CEO Richard Sutton, and 2 corporate attorneys. It's the first time Daniel has seen Trevor since his termination. Trevor won't make eye contact. Apex's lead attorney opens with an offer. We're prepared to offer Mr. Morrison $50,000 to resolve this matter with no admission of wrongdoing. Michael doesn't blink. That's insulting. Mr. Morrison lost his job, his health insurance during a critical family time, suffered severe emotional distress, and incurred significant financial hardship. We're seeking full back pay, front pay, compensatory damages, and punitive damages. We're talking 7 figures minimum. That's absurd, the attorney says.
Is it?
Let's talk about what discovery will reveal in a trial. How many other employees has Apex terminated after they took family leave or medical leave? We've identified at least 4. How does that pattern look to a jury? Richard Sutton, the CEO, speaks for the first time. What do you want? Daniel leans forward. I want my job back. With full back pay, restored benefits, and a guarantee that this won't happen to anyone else. That's not realistic, Richard says. Then we'll see you in court, Michael replies, standing.
Wait.
Richard raises a hand. He looks at Trevor. Something unspoken passes between them.
Give us the room.
The attorneys leave. So does Brian. It's just Richard, Trevor, Michael, and Daniel. Off the record, Richard says.
Did this happen the way he says?
Trevor shifts uncomfortably. The performance issues were legitimate. Did you target him because of the baby? Silence. Trevor, I'm asking you directly. Did you build a case against him because he was about to take paternity leave? More silence. Then, quietly, I thought it would disrupt the team.
I thought. You thought you could get away with it.
Richard's voice is cold. You've exposed this company to massive liability because you couldn't handle an employee exercising his legal rights. Richard turns to Daniel. I'm prepared to make this right. Full back pay and benefits from the date of termination. $200,000 in compensatory damages. A formal apology. Implementation of mandatory anti-discrimination training for all managers. And I'm going to personally ensure that your personnel file reflects none of this happened. What about my job? Daniel asks. I can't reinstate you to Trevor's team, but I can offer you a position in a different department, same level, same pay. Reporting directly to me until we restructure. Daniel looks at Michael, who nods slightly. It's a good offer. Better than most cases get. But Daniel isn't finished. What about Trevor? Richard looks at his managing director. Trevor will be undergoing a formal review. Depending on what we find about other employees, he may face termination himself.
May face.
Will face, Richard corrects. If the pattern extends beyond your case, and I suspect it does, he's done here. 6 weeks later, Trevor Ashford is quietly terminated from Apex Financial. The official reason is restructuring, but everyone knows the truth. 3 other employees come forward with their own discrimination claims. Apex settles all of them and implements a comprehensive policy overhaul. Daniel doesn't take the job offer. He's moved on. The freelance consulting work turned into a full business. He's building something of his own now, with clients who value his expertise and respect his life outside work. But he does take the settlement. It pays off medical bills, funds Leo's college account, and gives them breathing room to build the life they want. A year later, Daniel gets a LinkedIn message from a young analyst at Apex. I just wanted to thank you. I'm about to adopt with my partner, and when I told my manager, he congratulated me and started coordinating coverage for my leave. I heard what you did, what you fought for. It changed things here. Daniel reads the message to Marcus that night while Leo sleeps between them. Was it worth it? Marcus asks. All the stress, the fear, the fight? Daniel looks at his son, at his husband, at the life they built despite everything. Yeah, he says. It was. Here's what nobody tells you about fighting injustice. It's exhausting. It's terrifying. It's expensive. And sometimes, the easiest choice is to walk away. Daniel could have taken the 2-week severance and disappeared. Found another job. Moved on. Many people do. And there's no shame in that. Survival is a valid strategy. But Daniel chose differently. Not because he was braver than anyone else. Because he had the resources, the support system, and the sheer stubbornness to fight back. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Justice shouldn't require that much. It shouldn't take savings and sacrifices and sleepless nights to hold companies accountable for breaking the law. But it does. And until that changes, people like Daniel have to decide, do you fight or do you let it go? What makes Daniel's story powerful isn't just that he won. It's that his fight made it easier for the next person. That analyst who felt safe announcing his adoption? He exists because Daniel refused to disappear. That's how change happens. Not through grand gestures or perfect heroes. Through ordinary people who say, no more, when they could have said nothing. Trevor Ashford thought he could eliminate a problem employee before that employee became inconvenient. He made a calculation. Daniel would be too broke, too scared, too focused on his new baby to fight back. He was wrong. And his wrongness cost him everything. But here's the deeper lesson. Companies don't discriminate. People do. Trevor made choices. He rationalized them. He convinced himself he was protecting the team, managing performance, doing what was necessary. He was just being cruel. And when you're cruel to people, especially during their most vulnerable moments, you roll the dice. Sometimes they can't fight back. Sometimes they can. Daniel could. And he did. The question isn't whether karma exists. It's whether you're willing to be the hand of karma when the moment requires it. Whether you're willing to document, persist, fight, and refuse to let injustice be comfortable. Because justice doesn't happen automatically. It happens because people like Daniel make it happen. Your moment might not be a firing. It might be witnessing discrimination and choosing whether to stay silent. It might be having the power to hurt someone and choosing not to. It might be seeing wrong and deciding whether wrong is good enough. Those moments define you more than any title or salary ever will. Daniel Morrison learned that. Trevor Ashford learned it too late. Which one will you be?